Before we begin, big old shout out to Joseph for your very generous coffee donation. Joseph, many thank yous. Super, super generous of you. Ultimate cool. Hello, welcome, and happy winter solstice. This video is going out on December the 21st, 2020, which is the winter solstice for this year. So this video is going to talk about that great winter festival, Yule. So let's get one thing out of the way first of all. If you are a neo-pagan or Wicca adherent and you celebrate Yule in your way that is totally different to everything that you hear me talk about in this video, that is completely fine, because the new festival of Yule, although it takes the name and certain aspects from the ancient traditions of, amongst others, the Norse and the Germanic tribes and peoples, is a completely different festival for a different religion. So enjoy your Yule, and may it bring you great fortune. May you have a wonderful celebration of it. It is your thing. Have a great Yule. Yule, or Yule, was the Old Norse midwinter festival to Odin and Freyr and various other gods, depending on the time that we're talking about. They didn't celebrate all of their gods at the same time throughout the Viking Age. Some gods appeared, some gods disappeared, some became more popular, some became less popular. It depends on the region you're living in. There's a whole depth to Viking religion that a lot of people don't really know about, and I'll at some point do a video on that, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about Yule. We know about Yule from a few sources. We know about Yule from the names of months and the names of festivals from Germanic tribes. So late Roman period, 4th century period, we have mentions of Yule or Yule as a festival, as a time period. From a 10th century skald whose name I forget. Editing Jimmy, put that on the screen please. We have the name of the gods given as Yule beings, so Yule creatures. And the mead, the sacrificial mead this skald is giving to these Yule beings is his poetry, which I think is a lovely poetic way of putting it. His sacrifice as a skald is his work, his poetry, and that is the mead that he is giving to these Yule beings, which also implies, obviously, that mead can be used as a sacrificial item. Important to think about. Later on, after that, we have mentions of Yule in the Prose Edda, which is a 13th century collection of manuscripts from Iceland put together by Snorri Sturluson. And Snorri Sturluson gives us a bit of information on how Yule was celebrated. He mentions a few things about which gods are celebrated when and how these celebrations took place. So the Yule celebration was meant to be 3 nights from midwinter. So you do it for 3 nights, not just one day and not just one night. It's a 3-night feasting and drinking and sacrificial festival. It's a blood festival. It's a sacrificial festival. You have to make animal sacrifices. If you don't have animals to sacrifice, you can use mead, probably. It's highly unlikely humans were sacrificed. We don't think that they were doing that particularly. But according to the Prose Edda and to another manuscript, which is the Sturlunga saga, which I'll mention in a minute, they were sacrificing horses, they were sacrificing whatever livestock they had around. So if you are a Viking farmer and you want to make a Yuletide sacrifice, you would find whatever animal you have spare and you would sacrifice that to the gods. Then you would boil the meat, or you would cook the meat, or you would roast the meat somehow, and you would have that as your feast. There is also a school of thought that the blood from the sacrificed animal would then be dipped on some branches. You would take some branches, you would dip them in the blood, and then you would flick the blood at the people who were gathered there. That's a school of thought, not an absolute, this definitely happened. We're not really that sure that that's actually what happened. That might be something that's crept in from somewhere else. That might be a mistranslation or a slightly iffy idea. But debate rages on that amongst all the Old Norse scholars that I've been talking to, at least. Slightly later on, there is the Sturlunga saga, which is another Icelandic collection of manuscripts. And this one talks about basically Norwegian history. And it is fascinating. One of the things that it mentions is Hakon, King Hakon of Norway, who converted to Christianity. He was a mid-10th century king. So 10th century, Hakon converts to Christianity. But according to the Sturlunga saga, he has to hide his Christianity and pretend that he's still pagan. Ooh, one day I'll get through a video without a cup of tea. It is not this day. Because he's hiding the fact that he's Christian and pretending to be pagan, it gives him the opportunity, according to this manuscript, to move the date of Yule. So Yule is no longer 3 nights from the midwinter equinox, from the winter equinox, from midwinter night. It is now on December the 25th, which brings it in line with Christmas. It's on the 8th calends of January, December the 25th. So, there is this idea that Christianity took the date of Christmas from Yule, whereas what actually happened was, according to the manuscript evidence we have, Håkon, King of Norway, changed the date of Yule to bring it in line with Christmas, so that everybody could celebrate at the same time, and to make the eventual transfer from paganism to Christianity much easier, so they wouldn't have to change the calendar as much for people. So people would be used to celebrating stuff on the 25th of December. All they would be doing is, instead of celebrating Odin, they would be celebrating the birth of Jesus. Pretty simple. So I hear you cry, what about Sol Invictus and the Roman Saturnalia? The Roman Sol Invictus festival doesn't really become a thing until the late 3rd century, and that's not really what this video is about. This video is about Yule, and it's about where that comes from. There is also the idea of the Saturnalia. Unfortunately, the Saturnalia doesn't coincide with Christmas either, and as far as we can tell, the Roman celebration of the solstices didn't really happen in the same way that either Yule or Christmas does. So that's a different subject for a different video. One of the other Yule-related sources we have is the Venerable Bede. He's an 8th century Anglo-Saxon Northumbrian writer, and he tells us that the Anglo-Saxons, before they converted to Christianity, had a festival called Modraniht, and Modraniht means Mother's Night. There is a tradition in some Western Germanic tribes in that period, in the late Roman, sub-Roman and early medieval periods, of this mother goddess cult, if you like, celebrating a mother's festival. And it's really likely that this was another sacrificial festival, similar to Yule, and it's probably a fertility festival. Mothers symbolise fertility, rebirth, new life. The same as the winter equinox frequently is associated with new life. The days get longer, things become more fertile, the soil thaws, plants start to grow again. So this is a kind of mix of all of these different festivals and all of these different rites and cultures and religions, all sort of combining into it's a winter festival. So it's a winter festival, it's about fertility, it's about celebrating the new year about to start, it's about getting drunk, it's about eating loads of meat, and it's about making a sacrifice to the gods. Because you have to make a sacrifice to the gods to keep the gods happy. We all know this. Oh my goodness. So, how exactly did the Vikings celebrate Yule? Well, we're not 100% sure. We probably will never be 100% sure until we find a step-by-step instruction manual carved on a stone. But we know that they had sacred spaces. My good friend Hilbert, who runs History with Hilbert, has been studying Viking sacred spaces, and his research is fascinating. So we know they had sacred spaces, probably a sanctuary or a temple. You'd go down, the animals would be sacrificed, maybe you get sprayed with blood, maybe you wouldn't, we're not sure. You'd almost certainly drink ale, some kind of celebratory drink, get a little bit tipsy. You would make an offering to the gods, to Odin, to Freyr, whoever you want to celebrate. It was usually Odin or Freyr at this time of year. And then you would carry on the celebrations for a few days, and it would basically be a religious holiday. So there you go. That's effectively it. If you have any other Yule traditions or celebrations that you do in your family or in your culture, please do let us know in the comments. It's lovely to see how other people celebrate this time of year. So whether you are having a blessed Yule, whether you are having a good St. Lucy's Day, whether you're in the middle of your Advent fast, whether you're in the middle of your Advent prayer circle or cycle, or if this is just Monday, have a lovely winter equinox and enjoy the fact that the days are going to get longer from here. So I will see you next time. Until then, hwyl am y tro. Bye for now.